12 out of 20. No, this is not the number of potential Serie A champions this season, nor the number of clubs that have spent over 50 million euros this summer. It's actually the number of managerial changes in the Italian league. And the really shocking fact is that out of the top 9 last season, only Bologna and Napoli have kept their coaches. Yes, for those screaming Igor Tudor at Juve, calm down. He came for the last 2 months of the season, so he definitely doesn't count. So what's behind this frenzy, and how does it reveal so much about Italian football culture? Look, the number is really respectable. As a full-time football fan for the last 2 decades, I really can't remember other summer with managerial changes as much as this one in any of the top 5 European leagues. And rather surprisingly, this isn't even a record for Serie A. Back in 2011, only 7 coaches were still in control for the new term compared to this season's 8. So let's dissect them one by one, touching only on the most significant changes. We'll start with Allegri's move to AC Milan, which grabbed the most attention this summer given his previous success with the Rossoneri and his overall reputation in Italy. So what's key about Allegri's return to San Siro? Firstly, he'll be tasked with building a new foundation. Following the departures of Tijani Reinders, Malik Chow and Theo Hernandez, this seems like an extremely tough task, but if there is one coach in the world who can achieve it, it's Max Allegri. He was the man who made the transition after the successful era of Carlo Ancelotti in the 2010s. So what's to stop him doing the same after Stefano Pioli's 5-year period, which ended a year ago? Next, Christian Chivu to Inter. Obviously, we shouldn't mix a player's career with his managerial one, but Chivu knows what it's like to be a serial winner at Inter, having basically lifted everything with the Nerazzurri. He replaced Simone Inzaghi, who left for Saudi Arabia after the devastating 5-0 defeat in the Champions League final. Chivu is inexperienced at senior level, but he's expected to focus on balancing youth integration with restoring competitive momentum, which is the best news for every Inter fan given the fact that they have one of the most aging squads in Europe. However, in terms of managerial experience, Gianpiero Gasperini is on a whole other level. After 9 impactful years at Atalanta, he steps into Claudio Ranieri's shoes at Roma, transitioning from Bergamo to the capital. Known for his aggressive free-flowing tactics and player development, Gasperini is determined to reshape Roma's style and build on their recent Europa League qualification. In contrast, Atalanta has filled the void by appointing Ivan Jurić. Jurić arrives with extensive Serie A experience and a pragmatic, defensively solid approach, a sharp contrast to the high-octane attacking philosophy of his predecessor. This marks a pivotal shift in the club's tactical identity. In my honest opinion, Ivan Jurić could very well become the first coach to be sacked out of those discussed. Out of 9 managerial stints at 7 different clubs, he's averaged more than 2 points per game in only one, Crotone, between June 2015 and June 2016. His second best record is 1.4 points per game at Torino. Next on the long list of major managerial changes is Maurizio Sarri at Lazio. He returns to the capital just a year after re-signing, replacing Marco Baroni. Age 66, Sarri's return signals a desire for stability after a turbulent period, and he'll bring a signature possession-heavy, controlled style back to the Stadio Olimpico, a second chance to implement his vision. Another highly qualified coach who just started his second stint at his current club is Stefano Pioli at Fiorentina. Having left Al Nassr, Pioli returns to Florence, where he previously played and coached, bringing with him emotional ties to the city and tactical experience, particularly from his Serie A title win with Milan. In recent years, the word almost has come to define the club, with 1 Coppa Italia and 2 Conference League final defeats. Therefore, Pioli must guide La Viola back to winning ways. Last but not least is Igor Tudor. The Croatian technically arrived towards the end of the last campaign as an interim coach, but it was impossible for him to demonstrate his full managerial abilities in the remaining 2 months of the season. Now, after a strong pre-season and summer of transfers, which saw the arrivals of Jonathan David and João Mario, as well as the permanent one of Chico Conceição, Tudor could really demonstrate his extensive experience in Italy and Europe. Moreover, he's the first foreign Juventus coach since Didier Deschamps in 2007, so he could well be remembered. Realistically, the likelihood of all 7 managers still being at their clubs in 9 months' time when the season ends is close to 0. This verdict is not based on a lack of confidence in any of them, but on the fact that history speaks for itself. Traditionally, Serie A is the top 5 European league with the highest rate of managerial changes. A 2020 study shows that Serie A managers are not expected to last an entire season, with an average of just 35.1 league games. The Premier League is the safest in this respect, sacking a manager once every 69.4 games, which is basically twice as infrequently. Another metric shows that, over the same period, 220 managerial spells ended in Serie A, significantly more than in La Liga, 185, Liga, 130, and the Premier League, 131. If you want the most up-to-date numbers, over the last 6 seasons, 56 new managers have started seasons in Serie A, which is far more than in La Liga, 30, the Bundesliga, 32, and Liga, 33. So let's address the elephant in the room. Why does this happen so much in Italy? Well, if we take a philosophical approach to the matter, the answer is pretty straightforward. Between the late 1980s and the end of the 2000s, Serie A was undoubtedly one of the top 2 leagues in the world, and arguably the best for most of this period. AC Milan, Inter, Juventus, Fiorentina and Parma were among the most desirable clubs in Europe. But when the level in Serie A dropped sharply, while the Premier League and La Liga were on a whole other level in terms of money, attractiveness and European reputation, with the likes of Messi and Cristiano Ronaldo having a huge impact, the Italian Championship just couldn't compete. This led to a reluctance among the biggest talents to play for Serie A clubs. Apart from the 3 giants, Italy as a whole couldn't afford them, even if a more prominent name had been interested. A lower reputation led to less money, which consequently led to an inability to compete with other leagues. The final component in this negative cycle was of course poor results, which led to discontent among the fans. And who has the strongest voice when it comes to the future of a club, especially in Italy? That's right, the fans. Failure is met with rapid dismissal. Fans, media and ultras reinforce this act first, think later approach, driven by high expectations and little tolerance for underperformance. Moreover, the urgency for immediate results, especially Champions League qualification, forces clubs into quick fixes. Poor seasons hit finances, and there's rarely bandwidth for patient rebuilds. Basically, this turns into one big vicious cycle of expectations and underperformance. I'm sure that if you ask 100 fans of any Serie A club, at least 93 of them would say that they prefer long-term development to immediate results. However, when expectations are not met and there are no trophies, it's those same 93 people who will be the loudest in their criticism of the current coach. Meanwhile, the only survivors of this purge, Napoli and Bologna, are reaping the benefits. Napoli entered the season as title favourites under Antonio Conte, leveraging continuity and balance. Bologna, led by Vincenzo Italiano, recently won the Coppa Italia, showing that stability breeds success. And do you see the coincidence? Napoli and Bologna are the only 2 Italian clubs to have won a major trophy last season, which is the perfect proof of our point above. So, what's your opinion, guys? Would that come to an end, or this trend will continue just like it is right now? Share your thoughts with us in the comments down below. Also, don't forget to like and subscribe, and check out our upload on Allegri, about which we mentioned earlier in the video. Catch you next time.